Welcome, everyone. This is our last session of the BYU Bootcamp. Thanks for joining us for this. It's been really fun. Hope you guys have gotten some value from it as well. Students, thanks for being here. We know your schedules are packed right now, especially if you're a senior and trying to manage all of the things. So we really appreciate your time, and thanks for letting us help you with this application. Okay, so this is the last session of the BYU Bootcamp. If you liked this, if this was something that was valuable to you, please send me an email or let me know. We'd love to do these in the future and just really enjoy helping you guys. This one is a special one. We have our guest, the Granite Credit Union, who will be presenting and helping with scholarships and debt and financial literacy. This is something that I wish I had known so much earlier on when I was applying to college and stuff. So this is a really good opportunity to set yourself up success throughout your collegiate career and beyond. Couple of quick reminders before we get started. So you may be sick of me at this point, but if you are not, or if you have other questions, I'm hosting an office hours with a friend and another BYU alumna, Erica. We're hosting an office hours. It's specifically on the BYU essays, but if you have questions about the rest of the application, feel free to come and ask them as well. You can register at that link right there on the screen, lou.ma/office hours with alum. I will also send it in the chat in just a second. We'd love to see you there. You can just pop in, ask your question, pop right out. Yeah, it'll be a fun time. And then we are announcing our scholarship recipients tonight, which is incredible. Granite Credit Union has been so generous in giving 5 $2,000 scholarships. We will be announcing them at the end, and you have to be on this call in order to be eligible for them. So stay on the call. We are excited to give those out. Also, Mary, we were talking beforehand that everyone who applied is just so awesome, and they had the hardest time picking people because all of you guys deserve a spot at BYU. If I was on the admissions committee, I would give a spot to all of you. I'm sorry that it's limited and we had to limit it to 5. Here's what we'll be covering tonight. We're going to do a brief overview of the BYU scholarships. Then Granite Credit Union and Mary's going to talk about budgeting, savings and checkings account, and then managing debt and credit scores. And then we'll wrap up with a couple of reminders and the scholarships. Follow up, the pre-work activity. Drop a thumbs up in the chat if you created a FAFSA account as part of that was the homework that we set for the pre-work. I would love to see some thumbs up. Oh, nice. Okay, we've got some going. Awesome. I know it's hard. It's a lot. I'm sure some of you went and opened the application and were like, whoa, I was not expecting this. That's what happened to me when I first opened the FAFSA. Love how many of you, yes, started it is great. It is intense, but even starting is awesome. FAFSA is super important. We'll get into this in your scholarships, but there's no reason why you shouldn't do your FAFSA, and Mary might talk about this as well. Okay, quick overview of the BYU scholarship. So what you should be thinking about now, which is more than you may think. So the 3 factors that BYU is thinking about in terms of scholarships are your GPA and your ACT, SAT, your application essays, which I did not know when I was applying that they consider your application essays, but they do, and then financial need, which is again through that FAFSA. New freshman scholarships, these are some of the main ones. So there's a Russell M. Nelson scholarship. It's merit-based. You need a really high ACT score. It's 150% of your tuition for the entire collegiate experience, and they give 25 men and 25 women that scholarship. There's the Heritage Scholarship, which is full LDS tuition. You have to have a 34 or 35 on the ACT. There's the Sterling Scholarship Competition. There's also general university scholarships. Half of those are holistic and half of them are need-based. And then there's private scholarships administered by BYU. There's also departmental scholarships, which they don't usually give you your freshman year, but often as you get into BYU, if you're getting good grades, you can apply to those. Some important things to note about freshman scholarships. So most of these scholarships you apply to during your senior year of high school. In fact, I think the application is December 16th, 2024. So if you're planning on being a freshman in 2025, you need to apply to these by December 16th, 2024. So you won't even know if you've gotten into BYU when these applications are required. So make note of that. Circle your calendar, December 16th, 2024, and you want your FAFSA done by then as well. The FAFSA is required for any student that wants to be considered for need-based scholarships. That is the single tool that they use. I mean, they'll look at the other areas of your application, but for need-based scholarships, you have to have your FAFSA in. And then the one other thing I wanted to mention was missionaries. So if you are applying this year and you're a senior and you're applying and you're planning on going on a mission first, you should still apply for scholarships on that December 16th, 2024. If you get a scholarship, it will just be deferred for when you get back to your mission. So if you're planning on applying this year and going on admission, you'll still need to apply by that December 16th deadline. This information is all online. I can send a link to where you can find it, but do your research, look into this. I think BYU gives out more scholarships than you may think, and it just takes a little bit of effort. Also, like, your ACT score is important, so if it's up there, like, definitely tell them what it is, especially if it's on like the higher, even if it's like a 31, 32, 33, still an excellent score, still submit, because it will be factored into considerations. Okay, budgeting, savings, checking account, managing debt and credit scores, all very important things that you will need to know for general life skills, as well as being a college student, being on your own for the first time. Mary, I'm so excited for you to present some of these things. It's going to be so helpful. I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. I'm super excited. I hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll do some activities throughout the thing and make sure you're understanding. But feel free to like put something in the chat, and I'll kind of try to watch that as well if you have questions. Let me just share my screen. Let's see. Do you guys see that? Let's see if I can.
Yep, that looks great, Mary.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we're going to talk about budgeting. Let's go for our next. Okay, so I'm going to go over some budgeting basics, and we're going to talk about salary, so your income. What is your income made up of? So a salary is a fixed annual amount that is paid out over pay periods during the year. For example, a job that pays $40,000 a year, just straight. And so there may not be any variance there. Your wages, that's pay is calculated based on hours worked or output produced. Pay is usually paid on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. For example, a job that pays $14 an hour and they work 40 hours a week, but maybe they end up having overtime, so they get paid more than the 40 hours a week, and it's based on their hourly pay. And then there's also bonuses. So bonuses are additional payments made to employees, often as a reward for meeting targets or other achievements. For example, getting a $1,000 bonus for meeting a sales target would be an example of that. Or maybe if you'd had a goal of doing so much work and you got that project done, you would get a bonus. Let's see. So we'll talk about expenses. There's 3 types of expenses. There's fixed, and the fixed ones are costs that don't change frequently. So this would include like your rent. He needs
to be on at the end, but he needs to leave it on.
Your insurance, loan payments, those all seem to be the same amount. Variable. So variable are costs that fluctuate depending on usage. This includes like your utilities, groceries, your clothing, and many other expenses, especially depending on the time of year and what you're doing and getting ready for. You can have a lot of variable expenses. And then discretionary. So discretionary are costs that are not essential for day-to-day living. This includes entertainment, vacations, and luxury items. And so there's different ways that you can manage your budget. And here's just some of those. So some ways that you can track your spending are using a pen and paper. Some people love to use Excel, so spreadsheets, and that's actually a really popular way to keep track of your spending. And there's a bunch of different budgeting apps too, especially if you really like apps and you'll be diligent and put your purchases in or your expenses in and keep track that way. You can find a budgeting app. Granite Credit Union actually has Money Desktop as part of our online banking, and that is free. And those of you that all opened up an account, you can get Money Desktop on our online banking and use that. And you can actually budget on the app, and it will also bring in, if you have other banking relationships, you can pull those all together so you see all of your money in one view. So that's something to think about. Remember to regularly review and adjust your budget based on your spending patterns and financial goals. So one of the most important things about you controlling your money and money not controlling you is this right here, where it's like, remember to regularly review and adjust your budget. Because otherwise you kind of can get into that pattern of, well, I think I have money, or I feel like I have money. And spending can be a very emotional thing. So budgeting can help you control what you're doing and also help you achieve your financial goals. So we'll talk income and expenses. So if you want to increase your income, you can do that by selling something. So that would be like a one-time increase from selling that item. Occasionally, if you do like a few garage sales, or you sell things on like Facebook Marketplace, a few times a year, or eBay. Ongoing, so maybe you have a part-time second job, and then long-term, it could be that you're getting education or certifications that increase your skill set and allow you to be promoted, or to get a totally different career. So you get a career pivot. So those are some ways that you can increase your income. And then decreasing your expenses. This is a really important part, especially if you're trying to grow your money and to get out of debt. So the way that you can decrease your expenses, there's 3 ways. You can conserve, which is you can get cheaper or use less of something. So instead of buying those really cute designer shoes, I'm a shoe person. I totally love shoes. So maybe you can find a really nice pair that are not as expensive. That's one way to conserve. Adjust, you can renegotiate on a price, and then eliminate what you can do without. So sometimes when we actually break down what we're spending and where our money is going, one of the benefits is that you can actually decide what really is of value to you and what you really don't need. So it makes you more thoughtful about your money. Anybody have any comments or things they want to put in the chat? I can see that there's the chat. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going for now. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to talk about the different budgeting methods. So there are 3 different budgeting methods. The 50-30-20 rule. This is where 50% of your income goes to your needs, 30% goes to your wants, and 20% to savings and debt repayment. And then there's the 70-20-10 rule. So 70%. Let's see, what about zero-based budgeting? Scott, I'm not sure what that is. Do you want to maybe, can you unmute?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. What's zero-based budgeting?
Taking a financial literacy class, and essentially it's assigning every cent of your money to something.
Oh, okay.
So
So that, yes,
yeah.
I know what you're saying there. Okay. So what Scott's talking about is that when you get all of the money that you make and you allocate it for absolutely, like, there's no leftover. So part of that would be for your savings, obviously those things that you need, and then your wants, but you literally have a spot in your budget for every single cent you make. And that is a way that you can actually increase your savings. But these 3 methods that I'm bringing up are kind of the most common. But I'm glad you brought that up. Let's see, the 70-20-10 rule is 70% of income goes to your needs, 20% to your wants, and 10% to savings and debt repayment. And then the 80-20 rule, and I think a lot of people, they hear this, is 80% of income goes to needs, wants, and debts, and then 20% directly to savings. So here's an example of the 50-30-20 rule, where it would be your rent, your utilities, your groceries are 50% of your income going to those things. So those are your needs. Your wants would be the vacation fund, the clothes. Oh, tithing. How does tithing affect your budgeting? Well, so actually, I would say that's an important part of your budgeting, is that would be probably under your needs that you need to budget. And if that comes out from the very top, you know that that's part of that the need slot. Anybody else have thoughts on that? But I would say that usually comes off the gross amount that you make. And so you would put that into your needs slot. Which rule will help me get out of the university with the most money and least amount of debt? Well, there's a couple of things. I think that whichever method you do, you would want to put as much as possible. So if you don't get like a full ride scholarship, you would want to put as much of your money towards your school costs to have the least amount of debt. But this can be like a trade-off. You may put less in savings because you're paying more for your schooling, so you don't end up with a large debt. And then because of your degree, hopefully you will be able to get a job that you make more money. And there in turn, when you start making more money, you're able to put more in savings and pay down whatever remaining like student loan debt. And we will go into debt management as our 5th course tonight. But I would say, you'd have to look at which method you think works for you. And you're going to, can you share? I think we'll share these slides with you so you can have that as a follow-up. Okay. And then, yeah, you could have the tithing come out of wants. I saw that that method or that comment. So I don't know, is it a need or a want? You would have to decide, because I can't dictate that for you. But I think a lot of you, if you're paying your tithing, I mean, you could put it in either one, a need or a want. Okay. Let's see. The next one is the 70-20-10 rule. So that would be 70% of your needs. The money goes to needs, and then 20% to the wants, and then 10% to your savings and debt repayment. Now, in this rule's case, only 10% is going to debt repayment and savings. You're not going to be saving as much. So I would probably think it's probably more like the 80-20 or the 50-30 would help you with the school to have less debt and have more savings. What does the average student budget look like living at BYU Provo? What are they approximately spending the most on? What is the lower cost per item class service? Ariana, I do not know, but those are really good questions. I would think
I can drop an estimation. I was in school just a couple years ago, so I can send an estimation. It's such a good question. Yeah, I would also like, if you have siblings, or friends that have gone to BYU, I would definitely ask them. It also vary depending on your budget and do you have an on-campus job or a scholarship, but that's exactly the question that you should be asking. I'll send some estimations.
That's awesome. I'm glad Amelia's on here so she can help with that. But those are the kinds of things actually you need to be thinking of. I love it. Thanks, Amelia. Here's the 80-20 rule. Okay, so that would be your needs, wants, and debts would be that 80%. And then the savings would be 20%, which would help you build a lot of savings. So this is a very popular method that people like to do, the 80-20. But I think the zero the zero budget actually is really good too, because you allocate every single cent that you have. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you guys. There's a week 3 activity. This is the one that, can you put them in breakout sessions? And then I'm going to stop sharing and then bring up that activity. Or I want them to separate items that are in the savings column and then items that are in a spending column. So just me.
I can, but Mary, thinking more about this, I think it might be better if everyone just like took a second on their own to think through it,
Okay.
because we didn't ask this beforehand.
Okay,
So maybe
that's
like
fine.
have a workbook in front of you and think through this.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Let's see. Let me. Okay, so I'm gonna.
With you? Is it in your bag?
Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So looking at those activities, or yeah, these different things, can you separate those in a, and I think, I don't know that I sent this activity ahead of time, but we could actually even go through, if you want, what would be a savings and a, what do you guys want to do? Go through this yourselves and put what would be a spend item and then what would be a savings item.
I kind of like the go through this ourselves option.
Okay. And then I do have the answers, but I'll give you guys a minute. And if like some of you want to start giving me a thumbs up when you're ready, then I'll know that I've given you enough time. Awesome. Okay. I am gonna stop sharing that. And then I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint. Because I will give you the answers. And you guys can see how you did. Okay, can you see that?
I just see the slideshow. Oh, there it is.
There you go. How'd you guys do? You know, I don't know about you guys, but that Taylor Swift concert with the prices in the US, I think that might be a savings item.
I don't even like Taylor Swift, so either way, it's going to be a savings item.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. So,
Can I add one thing, Mary, to here?
yes, you absolutely can.
Different budgets, like this is going to look very, very different depending on your financial situation. For example, there was no way that I was saving for a house or a vacation fund or anything when I was in college, and some of you may feel that way as well. So this is a guide, and this is including everything that you may have on yours, but know that your situation is going to look different. And just be smart about your money. Like the whole point of this is to be intentional with your money, right? And be thoughtful.
Absolutely. And also, you know, as you progress along your life and you start earning more income, you have a career, things like that, your financial situation is going to change. And, you know, I think it's great to have these habits early and then just keep them, and you're going to be more successful. So, yeah, your savings item may actually be for, you know, something that you've been wanting, and it's not as large of an item as like a home or anything like that, but maybe it's even like, I have this vehicle that I need to make sure I have tires, you know, next year. So I know I'm putting money away for tires because I'm going to need new tires. I mean, things like that. So, but that's really good, Amelia. Okay. So, that's it for budgeting. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and then I am going to bring up the next um, training on savings and checking. Okay. Mhm. All right. Can you guys see that one?
Yep, looks great.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about savings and checking accounts. This is an introduction to banking. And there's some difference between banks and credit unions. And so we're going to go over the difference between those. So the ownership of credit unions, they're owned by their members. Banks are owned by shareholders. So you can buy stock in banks. When you're a credit union member, you're actually an owner in the credit union. The profits, so credit unions are not for profit, and banks operate for profit. They want to make sure that they have the best return on their shares or on their stock. To be a member of a credit union, credit unions have membership criteria. So for many of you, you had to live, work, worship, or volunteer in one of the counties that we qualify for in Utah. But for others, we allowed you to join because we have that association when we do a donation to Murray Education Foundation. So that allowed you to join. For banks, banks are open to the public. And then the services, banks typically offer more diverse financial services. Credit unions focus on basic banking and community-oriented services. And then the fees and rates. So credit unions often have lower fees and higher interest rates on savings. And banks may charge more fees but offer lower savings rates. So that's just some of the differences. me go to this next one. We're going to do another activity. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. This one will be kind of fun. It's a quiz. And we'll do it actually through the chat. I'm going to have you guys answer which choice. It's a multiple choice one because we're going to figure out or find out what you guys know about banking. Okay, so a minute. Okay, can you see that banking quiz? I'm actually in Mountain Time. And this meeting goes till 9. Or not 9, sorry, 8:30, right? 7 to 8:30, I think. Okay, so first question, what is the purpose of a savings account? And then just everybody kind of throw in your answer in the chat. Yep. That's right, A, to earn interest on your money. Good job, guys. Okay, number 2, what is the difference between a checking account and a savings account? Good job, C. Okay. Number 3, what does interest mean when you borrow money? That's awesome. A, you're right. So the fee you pay for borrowing. Okay, number 4, which of the following typically has the highest interest rate? Okay, there was a couple of D's and there's C's. So we'll talk about these differences. So you do earn a higher rate of interest on a money market account, but share certificates or savings certificates actually pay higher. So right now, Granite Credit Union, we are paying like 2.5% on our money market, and we have a 5-month CD paying 5%. So with the certificate, the share certificate or savings certificate, that's when you tie up your money for a period of time. So in the example that I gave you, that we have this 5-month certificate and we're paying 5%, that you put your money, a minimum of $500 into this certificate, and for 5 months you don't touch it, and you'll earn the 5%. If you withdraw that money early, then you can get a penalty. And a money market is a liquid account where you don't get a penalty. You can take money out, but you do earn a higher rate of interest, but it's not as high as the certificate. Does that make sense? And yeah, that was good, Ariana. It depends on what you invest in. Okay. So that was number 4. Okay, number 5. Which type of loan is typically used to buy a house? Perfect. C, a mortgage. Okay, number 6. What does budget mean? That's exactly right. A, so a plan for spending and saving money. Number 7. What is the purpose of an emergency fund? This is great. You guys are so good. Covering unexpected expenses. That's C. Okay. Number 8, what is a credit score used for? That's right, A, to help lenders know how likely you are to repay your debt. Okay, let's go. 9, which of the following factors affect your credit score the most? That's great. C, credit utilization and payment history. Okay, what is the difference? This is number 10. What's the difference between a debit card and a credit card? Okay, a debit card draws on funds you have available in a checking account, while a credit card draws on a loan and will need to be paid back, potentially with interest. And then some of you said C, which is a debit card has higher interest rates than a credit card. So a debit card is actually just attached to a spend account, and it helps withdraw money from it. Now, there may be an overdraft line of credit that if there's no money in checking, they can pull from, and when they do transactions with their debit card, it will take that money off of that overdraft line of credit, and typically that does have a higher rate of interest. But debit cards don't have interest rates that you pay back it because it's not a line of credit. It takes the money from your checking. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, cool. All right. So you guys did really good, actually. It's interesting until you actually talk about this stuff. Sometimes people don't know, you know, how the banking things work. So you did really great on that quiz. I'm gonna go through the slides because each slide I had for that quiz, I didn't want to give you the answers ahead of time. So just a second, I'll share again my screen. Okay, go back and we're going to talk about savings. Okay.
Were you able to get an app for this?
Yes, I did that earlier. Okay.
Is there like a list of apps that is in the slide, or is there like a specific one you want us to look at?
Can you see this understanding savings accounts?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go in and we'll talk more about like apps that you can use for different things.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, so a savings account is a type of bank account where you can deposit money securely while you earn interest on your balance. And depending on if you're with a credit union or a bank, they are federally insured by the government. So the NCUA is for credit unions, FDIC is for banks, and your account, just without looking at joint owners or business accounts or trusts or anything, those accounts were insured up to $250,000, so that if the bank or the credit union were to fail, the federal government would guarantee those funds up to that dollar amount. So that's one thing that's really good about going with a bank or credit union that is federally insured. Let's see. So you get offer of interest on the money deposited. You put money in the savings, and then your financial institution will pay interest on that money that's deposited. But the thing that's good about savings too is that if you do need access to it, you're able to withdraw that money without any type of penalty. But the financial institution pays you dividends or interest because you leave the money in your savings account. Okay. So Granite Credit Union has savings accounts that you can actually set up, like, the envelope method for budgeting. We actually have multiple savings accounts that you can set up on the same account number. It's called a secondary share, where whatever life throws at you, you can save for an emergency fund. You can put money, like say you have a wedding fund or a mission fund, travel, and more. And you could even have like a school fund, so you need to get school supplies, you start putting money in there. You can earn dividends each month on your monthly balances, and then you can deposit and withdraw anytime using our online app, ATMs, or branches. So we have an online banking app. I don't know if any of you've got set up for that yet, but it's Granite. I'm going to just show you what that app looks like. Okay, can you guys see my phone? You can see that, the G there, and it says Granite CU. That's our app. And then once you get set up, we can get you set up with like a username and, get your password and everything. So if you're not set up currently, we can help you with that. You can actually start the process, and then someone can follow up with you as well, but we'd be happy to do that. And then you can manage your funds on that app. And then we are a member of what's called the co-op. So you can take your debit card and you can go to ATMs all over the country that are in the co-op and withdraw funds without paying fees. So that's something to consider too, especially if you're like traveling or you're going to school and you need cash. And then we also do shared branching, where other credit unions that are part of the co-op, you can go and do your Granite Credit Union transactions there. And then you're insured up to $250,000. And then we have automatic transfers and payroll deduction are available to make saving easy. And so especially if any of you have direct deposit, currently with the job that you have, you could have money that goes in automatically to your savings or your checking. Okay. Go to the next. Now we're going to talk about checking accounts. Okay. So, let me just get to my. Okay. Checking accounts are primarily used to deposit your money, withdraw funds, and then make your day-to-day financial transactions. A lot of people use their debit card instead of writing actual checks, but you can do both. They are also insured by the NCUA up to $250,000. And then generally, checking accounts or spend accounts do not offer dividends or interest. Sometimes they do, but it's not common because that money goes in and out of the account fairly quickly. So at Granite Credit Union, we have 3 types of spend accounts. We have a basic spend account, and just a sec. Our basic spend account has no fees. The account comes with a debit card, so you can swipe or tap or insert to securely make purchases. And then a simple spend account. The simple spend account is similar to a checking account, but without the checks. Our simple spend account gives you easy access to your money wherever you need it. It's a great starter account option, helping youth ages 12 to 18.
But I
learn
have to
how-
listen to Ian. Boring.
What's that? Oh,
I don't
12 to
think they mean.
18.
If you're on, please like stay on mute unless you have a question.
Youth ages 12 to 18 learn how to budget. If you haven't been eligible for traditional checking accounts, or if you're an I-10 holder, or just want to avoid the possibility of fees, the simple spend's the way to go. And that's one thing that Granite Credit Union does too, is if you have an I-10, there are multiple financial institutions that don't do I-10 lending or will not open up I-10 accounts. An I-10 is an individual tax identification number account. So that would mean like they don't have a social security, they're an immigrant or refugee that has an individual tax identification number. We will open those accounts. We will actually open accounts for people with no social and no I-10 and then help them get their I-10, because being banked or being unbanked is not good. You're more prone to predatory financial practices. So it's better for people to be able to have access to a banking account. We have dividend plus spend accounts, which Granite Credit Union has. If you maintain a $5,000 average daily balance in your checking and then have a money market account with savings in it, we will pay you dividends on that balance in your checking, and then also pay you a bonus dividend on the money market. So that's typically for people that are more established in their financial history, if that makes sense. And now we're going to talk about an emergency fund. These are really important. There are some different scenarios that come up, obviously, in life. Emergencies happen, right? So they act as a safety net to handle unexpected expenses or income disruptions. And, you know, stuff can happen, life can happen, right? People can get laid off. What percent on the 5K? We do 0.3%. And then on the money market, we'll pay a 2.5% bonus on top of the 2% that we pay on money market. So you can get 4.5% on your money market and then get the dividends of the 5,000. Okay. Oh, went back. Sorry about that. Scenarios that would require the use of emergency funds. It could be a pop tire, if you lose your job, you know, if you have a sick kid or a sudden injury, a car accident, or a death of a family member. And, you know, I remember this one member who he did construction for a living and he got hurt on the job. And he did have some unemployed, or like it was disability benefits, but the most it paid was 60% of his wage. And so he was it was very difficult for him to pay for all his bills and his needs during that time that he needed to heal, because he had a broken leg and he couldn't do construction for 6 weeks. So he was like, I need to have an emergency fund. And he ended up, you know, really taking that serious when he got back on his feet. But stuff happens, so it's really important. Okay. So we're going to talk about how to calculate your emergency fund. So you should have at least enough money for the next month's rent. It is better to have money for 1 to 2 months expenses, and best to have 3+ months. But I think sometimes people get so overwhelmed by this goal that they don't do it. They don't make any action because it's kind of intimidating. But I say it's like start with whatever you can. To build a healthy emergency fund, you should set aside some funds each month in your budget. It's really important. So we're gonna go here. This is an activity that I did give this activity ahead of time, but I don't know if Nick was able to hand this out to you guys. I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute and then pull this up. And you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get this ahead of time? I don't think you probably didn't, but we'll go through this calculation. Okay, so I will send you this activity for after. Like this will be a follow-up because I won't have you go through that, but I'll go through it on a slide with you instead. So let me stop sharing that one. Okay, and then I'm gonna okay. Oop. So the way that you would do your emergency fund planning, okay, this will go with that worksheet. You calculate your own ideal emergency fund in your workbook. So as an example, you would take your monthly expenses. So for here, it's $1,500 in rent, $200 in utilities, a car payment of $300, insurance of $200, food of $300, gas of $150. So the total is $2,650. And so when you guys are going to school and you're not living at home, you'll probably have these monthly expenses that you know that you're responsible for. Even if you get scholarships or, which I hope you all get a lot of that, or grants. But this is a really good activity to calculate how much emergency funds you would need. And then you would take, after you get that, this 2,650 number. So you total all your your payments. And then what you would do is you take the total number, so that would be the 2,650, and then times the number of months. So say to start, you're going to do 1 month, that you just want to get at least 1 month backup. So you know that would be in this example, $2,650. So then you would take that dollar amount and you would divide it on the dollar amount that you can set aside per month. So say you know that you could save $200. It would take 13 and a quarter months to get this. So you'd basically say 14 months to build up 1 month of emergency funds. But this is, I think, a really good exercise to do, and especially when you are first on your own, or even ahead of time now if you have any types of bills. I think most of you are still probably at home with parents and stuff, but you can go through this exercise and kind of get yourself in a better position. Okay. And that is the end of checking and savings. Okay, so now we're gonna do managing debt and credit scores. And I'm gonna try to do this one justice. I'm gonna stop sharing here. There's a lot of information, but I think it's good information. Okay, so Okay, so we're going to talk about managing debt and your credit scores. Oh. Understanding types of debt. So you have different types of debt. Credit cards, student loans, your mortgages, personal loans, auto loans, home equity loans and lines of credit, payday loans. Payday loans typically have a very high rate of interest. So I would definitely say stay away from those as much as possible. Business loans, medical debt, and then debt consolidation loans, where if you have multiple credit cards and different payments that are due, like medical debt and some credit cards, that you combine them into one loan and you pay off the other ones. And then secured loan and unsecured loans. So we'll talk about loan basics to start. So the principal is the amount that you borrow, okay? Interest is the amount of money that is charged by a lender for borrowing funds, and that's added to the original amount borrowed. So say I borrowed $500 and I was going to be charged $30 to borrow it. Then I would have to pay back $530 because that would be principal plus interest. It represents the cost of using borrowed money over time. Annual percentage rate, this is the APR, so the rate of interest charged on a yearly basis. And then term is the length of the loan. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute and I'm going to show you an APR calculator just so we can see an example of what this looks like. Okay. Hopefully you can all see that. The most common use of a payday loan is typically it's because someone's kind of in an emergency. That really is what starts it. But the danger in it, and it doesn't mean like I think sometimes when people think of debt, they think all debt is bad. But really it's what is the purpose of it? You know, why do you need the money? And then how are you going to pay it back? You know, and realistically, but the difficult part for payday lending is they usually charge so much interest that it's really difficult to actually get it paid off. I've seen some as much as, 200%. Well, unless you have the full amount of the money plus 100%, that's going to be something that you're just not going to be easily getting out of. And that can also become really hard to pay off the existing one. And then a lot of times people will take out another. So avoid those as much as you can. So I'm going to go into this calculate your loan payment, and we're just going to say we're going to get a car loan. Does someone want to give me a dollar amount? Realistically, that you guys, when you get your first job and you think, hey, I want to get a car. $400? I don't know that you're going to get are you thinking that's your payment? Or I want to know the full dollar amount of the car. $127,000, $20,000. Okay. Let's go with the $20,000, okay? So it's $20,000. Right now, let's say that your credit is like you're newer to credit, and let's figure out. Whoop. Let me just pull up car loan rate for And that's good. Your car's paid off by your parents. That's awesome. Eventually, though, you may want to get a different car. You may need to get a different car. And I would say definitely if you have support like that, that's really nice. Let me give you an auto loan right. So if you're someone that doesn't have any credit and you're brand new, we have a first time auto buyer loan that will go up to $20,000. And the rate that we charge on it is back here. First time buyer guidelines. So we'll do $20,000 for our maximum loan amount. The year of the car has to be 10 years old and newer, less than 100,000 miles. You have to be on your job 6 months. And then the payment to income is 15%. But that rate is, we're going to put it here, 13%. Okay. And then the length of the loan, we'll say it's a 5-year loan, so 60 months, and we'll compute. So your payment, I like it, Scott, because I wish I had that kind of money. So it's $455.06 a month. So, but if you had a down payment that you'd been saving for, right? You'd been building a down payment, and maybe you only had to borrow, $15,000. Let's see what that is. Oh, okay. Make me reset it. I can answer those questions in a minute, but we'll just do 15,000, 13%, and then 60 months. Okay, $341. That's still a chunk of change, right? So let me see. Switching from a debit card to a credit card. Well, this is important with lending too. Like, with the credit card, think of that. It's a line of credit that you have to pay back. A debit card money will come directly out of your checking account. So credit cards can help you build your credit score, but also you would need to make sure you manage it. And we're going to get into credit cards here in a minute. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I love it. Hey, a car is a car. Well, it's true. Teens at my school drive Teslas, and then there's me with my little dainty 10-year-old Honda Accord. And Honda Accords are great. And seriously, a car is a car. I agree. Okay, let's stop sharing and then go back to. Okay, we're back here. All right. So, next. Okay, so collateral, that's an asset that a borrower pledges to a lender to secure a loan or credit. If the borrower fails to repay the loan, the lender can seize the collateral as compensation for the unpaid debt. Secured versus unsecured. Well, first of all, in that collateral, that could be a car title, that could be a mortgage, that could actually be cash. That would give you like using collateral will usually provide you with a lower interest rate on a loan. And then there's secured versus unsecured. So a secured loan means you require collateral such as your car, house, or cash. And then if you don't make the payment, you can lose the collateral if you don't pay as agreed. And then they have lower interest rates. Then they have unsecured loans. So that's no collaterals required, but generally they have a higher interest rate than secured loans. Let me see. And actually, some of those bikes are expensive too. Let's see, I've wondered. Okay. Yep. Go to the next. The other thing that you can do with loans, so where you guys would be new borrowers, you could have a co-signer, and that's where we could get your interest rate lower. So a co-signer is a person who signs a loan or lease agreement alongside the primary borrower. They're legally responsible for the debt if the primary borrower fails to repay it. So this is really something that's important for you guys to know, is that as you build your credit and your credit gets stronger and you get a higher score, someone may ask you to be a co-signer. So that could be a family member, or it could even be, spouses. It could be a friend that asks you, but you should never ever be a co-signer on a loan unless that in your budget you could make that payment if that primary borrower doesn't do it. Because once you become a co-signer, you are actually saying that, yes, I agree, if this person doesn't pay it, that I will be responsible. And if neither of us pay it, we both can go to collections. So it's a big responsibility to be a co-signer. And parents may actually co-sign for you, but just understand that when they're a co-signer, that's what that means, is that you say, I am going to pay this if the main borrower cannot pay it or will not pay it. The loan agreement, that's what shows the loan details and how much interest you will pay over the course of the loan. This is really important when you get a loan, to make sure that you look at that loan agreement and you can see how much interest you're going to be paying to borrow that money. And then prepayment. Paying off the loan early to pay less interest is a really good idea. So if you have a payment every month for a loan, say it's like $200, even paying like $210 every month, a little bit extra is going to the principal, and it's paying the loan down sooner, and less interest is being tacked on to that loan. So it's really a good idea. Or you could make multiple payments, during a month if you have extra money. So those are some things to help with making your credit, improving your credit, but also paying less interest for borrowing money. Okay. I love it. Scott says, what? Look, all I'm saying is, if you have thousands of dollars while you're in college, I think you're the next Bill Gates. And then I love it. My mom hijacked my bank accounts. Haha. Oh, you guys are funny. Okay, let's talk about credit cards. So, your credit limit, that's the maximum amount you can spend or borrow with that card. Okay. The interest rates, this is charged if a balance is not paid in full by the due date. Typically, credit cards will allow you to use the money without paying interest on purchases if you pay it within that first month, like within 25 days, then there's no interest. After that, there will be interest. And then minimum payments. So every credit card will require, even if you carry a balance on that credit card, every credit card will require a minimum monthly payment. And it's usually a small percentage of the total balance. So quite often what I've seen is a person that has a credit card balance or a credit card limit of, let's say you have a credit card limit of, want to give you something easy, like $2,000. and your monthly minimum payment is 2% of the balance. So it's 2,000 times 2%, it's $40. But quite often they may even say our minimum monthly payment, no matter what, is at least $50 or 2% of the balance. Okay, so it's really important if you have a credit card that you at least make that minimum monthly payment. But you also want to make sure that you're paying it off and not letting it sit there with a huge balance. So making larger payments is helpful in improving your credit score. And then credit cards, they will impact your credit score basically with the usage and payment history. That affects the credit score. So things to think about when you have one of those credit cards. There's fees sometimes with credit cards. So do you begin with a low credit score that could improve or a high credit that worsens? Well, okay, so most people, you start out with no credit score. And so then how do you start building credit? A good way to do that can be to get a small credit card with a very small limit and then use it and pay it back and use it and pay it back, because that'll start building credit. And that can be that you get a secured, we'll get into this a little bit more. You can get a secured credit card where you actually pledge some money in a savings account that you can't use, and then they give you a higher limit. And then you pay it and use it and pay it and use it. And then eventually you can take that money out of savings because financial institution can see that you can manage the credit card and you're paying it back and you are building credit. I've heard that having no credit score is just as bad as having a low credit score. That is not true. So having a no credit score is not like having a low credit score. The way that Granite Credit Union looks at a person with no credit score, we typically say that you're like a person with C credit, because it's like you have no history, but we don't treat you like a person that has, or a person with a low credit score. Let's see. And bad history, it doesn't help you, but you can get out of that too by making your payments on time. My mom would not let me use her credit card, even if the world were going to total crap. Oh my goodness. Okay. There's fees sometimes with credit cards. So some credit cards have an annual fee. These are things to be aware of before you get a credit card. If you have late payments, there's a late payment fee, and then foreign transaction fees may apply. So if you use it to make purchases from places that are out of the United States, there may be a foreign transaction fee. And then same with if you go abroad and you use credit card, there may be foreign transaction fees. And then quite often with credit cards, there are rewards and benefits. Some of them have cash back, travel rewards, and perks available. So you can get a benefit from actually using your credit card by earning points or earning miles. And then security, there's greater fraud protection compared to debit cards or cash. So you can actually dispute credit card charges if, say, it wasn't you that made the charge because someone compromised your card. Obviously not you helping them, but you can actually dispute that charge with your financial institution, and you may be able to get that that money back. Where if it's a debit card where they take it out with a PIN, or cash, if your cash is stolen, you can't get that back. The other thing is there's secured and unsecured cards. So same as loans, you can get a credit card that has nothing pledged, or you can get a secured credit card where, say, as an example, if we gave you a $500 line of credit card, but we had you pledge $500 in a savings account in case you didn't pay it back. Well, you while you built your experience and built your credit. We may make you do that for like 6 months to a year and allow you to have a credit card. Does that make sense? Hopefully that's. Can you get a loan with frozen credit? You have to unfreeze it before you get the loan. But yeah, you can. And what they're talking about, the person that asked that question, you can actually freeze your credit so that you have to be notified and give them a PIN before you apply for a loan, a line of credit, and that can help prevent fraud from happening on your credit score. Okay, so talk a minute about the risks and benefits associated with each type of debit or of each type of debt. So let me see. Okay, so secured versus unsecured. The risks are secured debt, in other words, mortgages, car loans, those things involving collateral, which can be repossessed if the borrower defaults. So default is not paying the loan. That's what that is. And so you could risk losing the that collateral if you don't pay it. But the benefit is that with you doing a secured loan, you usually pay lower interest, so you pay less money to borrow that money. And then let's see, good debt versus bad debt. Good debt, in other words, like, and these are not like good debt and bad debt is objective, okay? But I will say the risks of good debt, it's like student loans, business loans, they can become problematic if income projections or the market shift unexpectedly. Bad debt, in other words, high interest consumer debt, leads to excessive interest payments and financial stress. And I mean, that's more like the payday loans. But the benefits of that kind of debt are good debt typically supports long-term financial or personal growth. So if you are in the position you need to get student loans, the point of that was that you would be able to get your degree and get into a career that you would be able to make more money and in turn pay off that debt more quickly. And then awareness of bad debt helps individuals focus on minimizing unnecessary liabilities. So even if you're aware that, you know, I need to look at loans or credit and make sure that they make sense for me. And then the impact on your credit score, high levels of debt utilization can negatively impact credit scores, making future borrowing more expensive. And then defaulting on any type of debt can lead to a long-term credit damage. But the benefits of having credit or debts is properly managing a mix of debt types, credit cards, and loans can build credit worthiness, making it easier to access lower interest loans in the future. So there's some things to think about. And then debt is a financial tool. So management of debt, even if used for investing or business, can lead to losses if markets don't perform as expected. But the benefits of using it as a financial tool, strategic debt can leverage opportunities for wealth building, using loans to purchase appreciating assets or start a profitable business. So in the example of buying a home or something like that. So those are some things to think about when you think about the risks and benefits associated with each type of debt. And then good or bad debt is objective and dependent on the purpose and plan for the debt. I think this is like a really important thing because you know people can have their mindset on what is good or bad, but consider how debt is a tool that can be leveraged for a different purpose. It's the way debt is managed and its alignment with financial goals that determines its value rather than the debt itself being inherently good or bad. An example, a business loan used for expansion can be financially positive if it generates more revenue. But if the expansion fails, the same loan could become burdensome. So it's really good to be thoughtful before you take out, you know, loans. what is the purpose, and what do you hope to accomplish, and understand the risks. Okay, so let's talk about debt management strategies. We have the debt snowball. So this is how you can pay off debt with the smallest balance first, and then the debt avalanche, where you pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. And I'm going to go through an example here. So this top spreadsheet, this is the debt snowball example. So this person has a car loan at $17,393.33 or 33 cents, and they're being charged 5% interest. They have two credit cards, one that has a $7,510.39 balance that is being charged 24.3% interest, and then their second credit card is getting 28.2% interest. So in the example of the debt snowball is that you would make the minimum payment on loan 1 or credit card 1 and credit card 2, and you'd take any extra money you had plus the minimum payment for the car loan, and you would pay off this car loan as quickly as possible. Once that was paid off, you would take all the money that you were paying on the car loan and apply it to or actually on the debt snowball, you'd start out with credit card 1, the $7,510.39, and then you would go to the credit card 2, and then you would go to the car loan. And so overall, you would pay this amount, $35,032.30, doing the debt snowball. But on the debt avalanche, you pay off the highest interest loan first. So you would pay off this credit card 2, then you'd pay off credit card 1, and then you would pay the car loan. But each time, the first loan you pay off, you would take the minimum payment plus any extra that you could, and you would pay that one off. And then you would take the money that you were paying monthly on that debt and apply it to the next highest interest debt. And then you would take the money that you had had from this one and this one monthly and apply it to the car loan. And that's how you pay it off quickly. By doing the debt avalanche, you save about $1,064.26. So for the situation, how would you know if the avalanche versus the snowball effect is better? Well, I think this is a personal choice, but in this case, it's the debt avalanche that is going to save you more money because you're going to pay off that highest interest rate loan first. But I think sometimes this debt snowball really appeals to people because they get overwhelmed by their stuff, but they're like, if I can get rid of this small one and then go to the next one and then the next one, that works for them. But you can actually save more money by doing the avalanche. Okay, so avoiding common debt pitfalls. So don't pay your bills on time. This is super important. Oh, good idea. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, that's true. Avalanche works better, but Dave Ramsey and others advocate for snowball, and that's true. Avoid your common debt pitfalls. So this is the one I cannot stress this enough. Don't pay your bills on time. Pay stuff on time, okay? Because you don't need those late fees. Loss of owed assets. This is another thing that, if you don't pay, they can repossess those assets that you used as collateral. And then co-signing, remember I talked about co-signing, or if you ask someone to co-sign, just remember those people are responsible, or you are responsible as a co-signer to make that payment if the other person doesn't. So never do that unless you actually can afford it. And then high interest rate debt, be careful of that. I think sometimes people are looking for a quick, fix, and they don't look at that interest. So making sure you really understand the loans that you are looking at and the terms and the interest that you'd be paying. And then only making minimum payments can leave you in a position where you're paying for a really long time. And especially on credit cards or unsecured debt, if you're making only the minimum payments, those can leave you in debt for a long time. and then paying your debts on time. What can happen if you don't pay your debts on time? So late fees, interest accrual, so you'll end up paying more interest. Loss of collateral, the debt could go to collections. If it goes to collections, that is going to impact your credit report. So negative entries on credit report and drop in credit score. And then can also happen where that company that you owe money, oh gosh, we're at 8:30. Darn it. All right. Let me just finish this wage and garnishment, and then we're going to go to the scholarship winners. Okay. So, if you don't pay your debts, they can actually garnish your wages. So they get money sent. Your employer has to send monthly payments to pay your debt. And that's a legal procedure where your earnings are required to be court ordered to be withheld by your employer. So, I'm gonna have to go through and skip a bunch of this. Sorry, guys. And if you were interested in finishing this, and I have 3 other topics, we could set up another workshop or something like that if you're interested in that. Give me a thumbs up, and then just a sec here. Okay, so here's the scholarship winners, guys. Now I got to tell you, it was so hard, but is it Haley Stuckey or Stuckey? Oh, good. I'm glad you guys want to do that. James Bangeter,
Won a scholarship.
Kira Martinez, Clayton Turner, and Emma, is it Marquis? You guys won. So, we will put the scholarships in your accounts at Granite. And then even if you don't get into BYU, although I can't imagine that you won't, and you go to a different school, just when you are enrolled in school, you just send us that you are enrolled in school, and then we'll give you access to the money, but we'll pledge it in the account until you are enrolled. But I wanted to give all of you a scholarship. I was so impressed, honestly. It made our committee's day when we were reading it. I'm like, you know what? I feel like the world is a good place because of all the great things that you guys are doing. So I'm sorry that I could not give everybody one, but I will just tell you, we will have other scholarship opportunities. So watch for those. And I will get the information out to Nick and Amelia and them that they could share with you as well. But congratulations to everybody. And then I would love to do another workshop in the future. Okay, so how do I do this, Amelia, where I stop sharing and then give to you?
Yep, if you just stop sharing, I'll be able to take over. You should see a little button next to the share. Congrats to everyone that won. That's awesome. Super psyched for y'all. Okay, thank you, Grant Credit Union. Super helpful. Final word of our final session. Your take-home assignment is to create a FAFSA account if you've not done so already, and then plan one way to live the lessons you learned on financial literacy, whether that's setting up a budget or thinking through your expenses and stuff for BYU. There's a lot of things that you can do to get started now. That will set you up for success. And then write your essays if you have not done so already. Guys, even if you haven't, just get words onto paper, go on a walk and voice memo it into your doc. Try and get those essays started as soon as you can if you haven't done so. We are getting closer to the deadline. I'll put the screen up one more time. Had a couple of people ask for the link. It's lu.ma/office hours with alum. If you have any other questions about the BYU application, Eric and I will be answering those. And then want to tell you, if you're applying for schools outside of BYU, we're doing another free boot camp. This one is not specific to BYU. It's for general colleges. We'll cover the Common App and a little bit of the UC process and some other more unique ones. So if you haven't learned enough from us, we are hosting this additional free boot camp. You can sign up. We will send it bit.ly/apply college. I can send that link in just a second too. But if you're applying to colleges outside of BYU, would recommend signing up for that. And if you can't join us live, we'll send out the recording like we did for this. It's at a very similar time to Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much for joining us. Had such a blast going through the BYU application with all of you. Hopefully this was helpful and you're feeling much better about the BYU application. I wish that I could give all of you spots as a BYU alumna. You all deserve to be there, and it's just a limited spots, but wherever you end up, I'm sure you'll shine. So thanks again for joining us for this BYU Bootcamp. Good luck with your application. And please reach out to me personally if there's anything that I can do to help you with your application. My email is amelia@joinlutheran.com. Happy to answer any questions over email if that would be helpful. Thanks again, guys. Have a great rest of your evening.
Bye, everybody.
Say